The planet Zithira hung in the void like a pale green jewel. Its surface was scarred with deep craters, jagged mountains, and rivers of strange, glowing liquid that reflected the pale sun. Smoke rose from distant battlefields, evidence of the endless war that had raged for years. The coalition of alien races, united to protect their worlds from the robotic army known as the Mech Lords, stood on the edge of collapse. Captain Marcus Kane, a human soldier from Earth, stepped off the transport ship and took a deep breath of the filtered air. The smell was different, metallic, slightly sharp, but the planet did not bother him. Humans had a way of adjusting to any environment, and Marcus had seen worse on training exercises in zero-gravity simulators and alien desert planets. His dark hair was cropped short, and his green eyes scanned the horizon. The coalition's encampment sprawled across a rocky plateau, filled with creatures of shapes and sizes he had never imagined. Some were towering, with 4 legs and multiple arms. Others were smaller, agile, with wings or shells that shimmered in sunlight. Marcus had been sent as part of Earth's first reinforcement team. The coalition had heard of humanity's resourcefulness and courage, and they wanted it on their side. Marcus had read the reports. Humans were fearless in the face of impossible odds, clever at solving problems, and compassionate even under pressure. That combination made other species curious, sometimes skeptical, but mostly respectful. As he walked through the camp, his boots crunching against the gravel, Marcus noticed a figure struggling with armor. The armor was bulky, heavy, and made of dark polished metal that seemed alive in the light. It belonged to Lieutenant Valera, a high-ranking officer of the Talari, a proud warrior race known for their strict discipline and physical strength. Her tall frame was powerful, but even her strength couldn't make the armor easy to wear. Valera grunted, twisting at the shoulder plates. "This blasted thing, it never fits right." Her voice was melodic but carried a hard edge, a reminder that she was a soldier who had faced countless battles. Marcus stepped closer. "Need a hand?" he asked politely, keeping his tone calm and respectful. Humans often approached situations with words first, gestures second, and violence last. It was something his superiors had emphasized. Humans could inspire trust by showing they were considerate, even when surrounded by enemies. Valera glanced at him, slightly startled. She was not used to asking for help, especially from someone she barely knew. Talari warriors valued independence and strength, and admitting difficulty was almost a weakness. Yet something about Marcus's calm expression made her pause. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. Adjust the shoulder straps if you can." Marcus moved closer, careful not to invade her personal space more than necessary. He studied the armor, noting the intricate design of interlocking plates and flexible joints. "It's a little stiff here," he said, gently pressing a section at her back. "If we loosen this and adjust the upper strap, it should allow more movement without compromising protection." Valera blinked, a strange feeling rising inside her. No one had touched her armor like this before. Other soldiers, especially those of her own kind, would have barked instructions or done it roughly, ignoring comfort or subtlety. But Marcus's hands were steady, his movements deliberate and precise. She could feel the warmth of his touch through the metal, and though she quickly looked away, a faint blush crept across her face. You are careful," she said, trying to sound neutral. "I learned a long time ago that rushing never helps," Marcus replied with a small smile. "And it's easier to work with someone who trusts you." Valera's blush deepened, though she kept her expression as neutral as she could manage. Trust? Yes. A useful skill. She allowed him to continue, feeling the armor loosen at her shoulders and back. Marcus adjusted the straps, tightened the clasps, and moved the plates so they fit her body exactly as they should. It took only a few minutes, but Valera felt a difference immediately. She could move without the usual stiffness, her limbs responding, like they were free of any heavy burden. "Better?" Marcus asked, stepping back slightly. Valera flexed her arms, testing the new fit. "Much better," she admitted, though she did not meet his eyes. Her mind was racing. Humans were different. They seemed weaker physically, but somehow stronger in ways she could not yet explain. They were clever, adaptable, and surprisingly gentle. She found herself strangely intrigued by this human who adjusted her armor with care instead of brute force. The moment was interrupted by a loud alarm echoing through the camp. Red lights flashed across the rocky plateau. The mech lords were attacking again. "Time to fight," Valera said, her professional instincts returning. She straightened, her body tense and ready for battle. "Captain Marcus Kane, follow me. Stay close and don't get in my way." Marcus nodded, checking his own gear. "Don't worry, I can handle myself." Humans had a way of turning the impossible into possible, and Marcus intended to prove it. They moved quickly toward the front lines. The battle unfolded like a storm, robotic soldiers swarming across the terrain with precise coordination. Alien. Defenders roared in response, their weapons firing in synchronized bursts. Marcus noticed immediately that the Talari soldiers fought with disciplined power, their movements precise but sometimes rigid. Humans, however, adapted constantly. He dodged a falling debris with a roll, then kicked a malfunctioning drone into a nearby wall, improvising in ways the aliens hadn't considered. Valera observed him, her initial irritation replaced by admiration. He was not stronger than her, not taller, not faster, but he was unflinching, clever, and calm under pressure. Humans did not panic even when the odds were against them. She realized that his confidence came not from arrogance but from experience, intelligence, and a respect for life, both his own and others. Amid the chaos, Valera found herself relying on him more than she expected. She instinctively moved in sync with him, and for the first time she felt a strange sense of comfort. His presence was steady, a small anchor in the storm of battle. After the skirmish ended, the battlefield quieted, leaving smoke and debris in its wake. Both sides had retreated, but the damage was clear. Marcus helped a few injured aliens, showing the same careful attention he had used adjusting her armor. Valera watched, a strange warmth filling her chest. She had seen many soldiers in her life, but never one who combined courage, intelligence, and gentleness so naturally. You fight differently from most humans I have read about," Valera said, finally speaking aloud. Marcus shrugged lightly. "We adapt. That's what we do best. And we don't forget that others are part of the fight too. Teamwork is stronger than muscle alone." Valera nodded slowly. The human soldier's words resonated with her. She had learned strength through discipline and combat, but perhaps there was another kind of strength she had overlooked, one that relied on empathy, intelligence, and patience. As the sun began to set over Zythera, casting long shadows across the scarred landscape, Valera found herself standing next to Marcus, feeling something she could not yet name. A blush crept across her cheeks again, and she quickly adjusted her helmet to hide it. "Tomorrow we go deeper into enemy territory," she said, her voice professional but tinged with something softer. "We will see if humans truly are as useful as they claim." Marcus smiled. "I'll do my best, but remember, I'm not just here to survive, I'm here to help." For Valera, those simple words carried more weight than she expected. Perhaps humans were not just fighters, they were something more. And perhaps, just perhaps, she would learn to trust this human soldier not only with the fight, but with herself. The night fell over Zythera, stars glinting like scattered diamonds. The war was far from over, but in the quiet moments between battles, alliances were formed, and admiration grew in unexpected ways. Marcus Kane had arrived on the frontier, not just as a soldier, but as a symbol of what humanity could bring to the galaxy. Courage, adaptability, and a gentle strength that inspired even the proudest of alien warriors. The sun rose over the jagged mountains of Zythera, casting sharp shadows across the rocky plateau. Smoke from yesterday's battle still drifted lazily into the sky, carrying the faint smell of scorched metal and alien flora. The battlefield had been cleared, but the tension in the coalition camp remained high. Every soldier knew that the mech lords would strike again, stronger and more relentless than before. Captain Marcus Kane adjusted his gear, checking every strap, holster, and piece of armor. Humans were taught to trust their training above all else, and Marcus's training was thorough. Every movement, every precaution mattered in a battle where one small mistake could cost a life. Yet, despite the danger, he moved with calm confidence. Humans had a way of staying steady, even when the world seemed to collapse around them. Lieutenant Valira was already awake, standing near the armor racks, examining her own equipment. The new adjustments Marcus had made yesterday had made a remarkable difference. She could move more freely than she had ever experienced in her Talari battle armor, her limbs feeling almost light. Still, the plates needed fine-tuning for the long march ahead. "Captain Kane," she called, her voice firm yet tinged with curiosity. "I need your assistance again. The armor feels better, but there are still minor adjustments to make." Marcus approached, offering a small nod. "Let's make sure it fits perfectly." The northern ridge was quiet in the early morning, but the calm was deceptive. Captain Marcus Kane and Lieutenant Valira scanned the horizon from their vantage point. Smoke from the previous day's skirmish had mostly cleared, but the scorched earth and broken armor pieces reminded everyone that the mech lords never rested. Every soldier knew danger could strike at any moment. Valira crouched behind a jagged rock, her dark eyes scanning the valley below. The Talari warriors surrounding her were tense, weapons at the ready. Marcus stood slightly behind, observing the terrain with the calm attentiveness of a human trained to anticipate surprises. He noticed small details others might miss: the faint dust trail where enemy drones had passed, the shimmer of sunlight on metallic surfaces, and the weak points in enemy formations. "Something's off," Marcus said quietly, pointing toward a narrow canyon. "Their advance looks too smooth, almost too organized. They might be preparing an ambush." Valira frowned, instinctively trusting his judgment. "Very well. Alert the others. Position the artillery along the ridge and prepare for the first wave. If you are correct, we may have a fight on our hands." Humans had a way of noticing subtle patterns that others often missed, and Marcus's caution was not wasted. Within moments, the first signs of the ambush became clear. From the canyon, mechanical soldiers, sleek, deadly, and faster than before, emerged in sudden, precise formations. They moved in perfect synchronization, flanking the coalition's forces from both sides. "Ambush!" Valera shouted, her voice carrying over the battlefield. "Hold your positions. Focus fire." The mech lords struck with ruthless efficiency. Energy blasts erupted across the valley, scattering dust and debris. Alien soldiers returned fire, but the robotic attackers adapted quickly, dodging shields and countering every move. The coalition forces found themselves pinned, unable to maneuver freely. Marcus acted instinctively. "Valira, follow my lead, use the terrain." He pointed to a pile of jagged boulders to the left. "We can funnel them into the narrow pass. It will slow them down and give our artillery a chance to strike." Valira nodded without hesitation. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Marcus's quick thinking was precise and effective. Together they maneuvered their team, drawing the mech lords into the narrow pass. As the robotic soldiers funneled through, coalition artillery fired with deadly accuracy, taking out the first wave. "Impressive," Valira said, her tone a mixture of admiration and urgency. "Your tactics, humans, are clever indeed." Marcus grinned. "We survive by thinking fast. You focus on strength, I'll handle strategy when we can combine it." The battle intensified. Mech lords swarmed from multiple directions, forcing the coalition forces to split and defend several points at once. Valira's Talari warriors moved like shadows, striking with powerful, precise blows. But even their strength had limits. Marcus moved alongside them, using agility and quick improvisation to intercept enemies, redirect attacks, and protect wounded soldiers. One massive mech lord advanced toward Valira, swinging a heavy metallic arm. She braced herself, but Marcus leapt in, rolling under its swing, and fired a precise shot that struck a weak point in its armor. The giant robot staggered, giving Valira the opening to strike with her energy blade. With a swift, decisive movement, she disabled the machine, sending sparks flying. Valira looked at him, eyes wide. You are fearless." "I just think fast," Marcus said, ducking another attack from a smaller drone. Humans were not always the strongest physically, but they had creativity, speed, and adaptability, traits that alien species often underestimated. The battle raged on. Marcus noticed another group of mech lords attempting to flank their position. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward a rocky outcrop, picking up a heavy boulder. He used it as a makeshift weapon, sending it rolling into the enemy formation. Several mech lords were knocked off balance, giving Valira and her warriors the opportunity to strike. Humans are resourceful, Valira muttered, a smile breaking through her usual stoicism. She had faced countless enemies in her life, but Marcus Kane was different. His combination of courage, intelligence, and calm precision made him formidable. The mech lords regrouped, bringing in a massive walker unit, a towering machine bristling with weapons. Its metal legs crushed everything in its path, and its energy cannons fired in sweeping arcs. Coalition soldiers scattered, taking cover wherever they could. "Valira, we need to take that walker down before it reaches the ridge," Marcus shouted. She nodded. "We'll need coordination. I can distract it, but I will need your support." Marcus assessed the situation quickly. He noticed a weak joint near the walker's rear leg, where armor plates met at an angle. "Aim for that joint when I give the signal. You strike first, I'll follow up to ensure it collapses." The plan required precise timing. Valira moved forward, drawing the walker's attention. Its massive weapons fired at her, but she dodged with agility enhanced by the adjusted armor. Marcus stayed slightly behind, calculating the moment to act. At the perfect instant, Valira struck the weak joint with a concentrated energy slash. Sparks flew, and the walker faltered. Marcus leapt into action, striking another critical point with a combination of explosives and precise shots. The machine toppled with a thunderous crash, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The surrounding mech lords paused, uncertain without their leader. The coalition forces seized the opportunity, pressing the attack and forcing the robots to retreat. Smoke and fire filled the valley, but for the moment, the ridge was safe. Valira turned to Marcus, her chest heaving with exertion. "Your human instincts. They saved us." "Again." Marcus nodded, brushing dust from his uniform. "We adapt. That's what humans do. But you fought brilliantly too. Without your leadership, none of this would have worked." For a brief moment, they simply stood there, taking in the aftermath. Alien soldiers moved among the fallen mech lords, tending to their wounded and salvaging what they could. Marcus noticed the fatigue in Valira's posture, the subtle signs that even the strongest warriors could feel weariness. He stepped closer. "Here," he said, handing her a water pack. "Take a moment. You earned it." Valira accepted it, the warmth of the gesture striking her more than she expected. Humans showed care in ways her species rarely did. There was no arrogance, no attempt to dominate, only respect and thoughtfulness. She felt her chest warm again, the faint blush returning to her cheeks. You think of others even in the middle of battle," she said softly. "That is unusual." Marcus shrugged lightly, a modest grin on his face. "We've learned that helping each other keeps everyone alive. It's practical and kind." Valira considered his words. She had fought countless battles, faced enemies who had no mercy, and led warriors who valued strength above all. Yet here was a human, physically smaller and weaker in appearance, who had earned her trust and admiration through courage, intelligence, and empathy. "Perhaps humans are stronger than I realized," she admitted quietly, her voice almost lost in the wind. Marcus smiled, a glint of humor and warmth in his eyes. "Strength comes in many forms, Lieutenant. We fight with our minds, our hearts, and our hands. You have all three as well." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the northern ridge grew quiet once more. The mech lords had retreated, regrouping for another assault, but for now the coalition forces held their ground. Soldiers moved through the battlefield, exhausted but determined. Marcus and Valira remained on the outcrop, sharing a rare, quiet moment. "You fought well," Marcus said, his tone sincere. Not just today, but in every battle I've seen you in so far. Valira's gaze softened, the usual warrior mask slipping slightly. And you are remarkable, Captain Kane. Humans, may be fragile in appearance, but you carry a strength that is admirable. A small, private smile passed between them. A recognition of mutual respect, trust, and perhaps something more. The war would continue, the mech lords would strike again, and the challenges ahead were uncertain. But in that moment, they stood, together, a human and a Talari, stronger for their bond, ready to face whatever came next. Night fell over Zithira, and stars glimmered above the battle-scarred landscape. The ridge was quiet for now, but the echoes of courage, trust, and admiration lingered. Marcus Kane and Valira had fought side by side, survived the ambush, and discovered the first threads of a connection that would shape the battles and their hearts yet to come. The battle had ended, at least for the day, leaving the northern ridge littered with the debris of shattered machines and scorched earth. Smoke curled lazily into the sky, blending with the pale green of Zithira's atmosphere. The mech lords had retreated, at least temporarily, but the coalition forces were exhausted. Soldiers moved carefully among the wreckage, helping the wounded and salvaging what could be repaired. Captain Marcus Kane and Lieutenant Valira stood on a small plateau overlooking the battlefield. The air was still, the distant sounds of alien voices and the faint hum of cooling machinery carrying across the valley. Both were silent for a moment, taking in the scene. The war had been relentless, yet in that quiet, there was a rare peace. "You humans," Valira began, her voice soft and thoughtful. "You seem to find calm even amidst chaos." Marcus turned to her, a faint smile on his face. "We learned to. Staying calm keeps you alive. And it helps others too. Panic spreads faster than bullets." Valira considered his words. A strange way. The sun rose pale over Zithira, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain. The northern ridge, though quiet now, still bore the scars of the previous battles. Smoke drifted lazily from the smoldering remains of mech-lord machines, while coalition soldiers moved quietly, repairing equipment and checking weapons. The air was tense. Everyone knew that the next attack would be stronger and more cunning. Captain Marcus Kane and Lieutenant Valira stood near the edge of the ridge, observing the valley below. Marcus scanned the terrain carefully. Humans were trained to anticipate threats, to notice the small details others might miss. He saw faint trails in the dust, the subtle shimmer of metal where robotic scouts might be hiding, and the weak points in the valley that could be used to the coalition's advantage. "The mech lords are reorganizing," Marcus said quietly, pointing toward a narrow canyon. "If we want to strike before they regroup fully, we'll need to move quickly. I suggest an infiltration team to disable their command hub. It's risky, but it could turn the tide." Valira considered his words, her dark eyes thoughtful. "An infiltration mission. Humans are reckless sometimes, yet your proposal is logical. You may be right." She paused, then nodded. "We will do it. You will join the team, Captain Kane. Your adaptability may be decisive." Marcus smiled faintly. "I'll follow your lead. But remember, it's not just about strength. Timing, patience, and observation are just as important." The team assembled quickly. Valira selected a small elite group of Talari warriors, humans, and other allied species. Each soldier was skilled, disciplined, and capable. Yet the mission required more than brute strength. It required strategy, coordination, and trust. Marcus's human instincts for improvisation and observation were critical. They moved quietly across the rocky plateau, using the jagged terrain for cover. The mech lords had set patrols, but the coalition soldiers moved with precision, avoiding detection. Marcus noticed a patrol heading toward a narrow pass. "We can distract them," he whispered to Valira. "I'll lead a small decoy team to draw their attention while the rest move toward the hub." Valira's eyes narrowed. "Risky, but effective. Proceed, human." Marcus led the decoy, drawing fire from the robotic soldiers with clever maneuvers and well-placed shots. He moved with agility, dodging blasts and forcing the mech lords to chase him. The distraction worked perfectly. Valeera and the rest of the team slipped through the canyon, approaching the enemy command hub with stealth and precision. Inside the hub, alarms began to sound, but the coalition soldiers were already inside. Marcus moved with calculated speed, disabling security measures and covering the team as they advanced. The humans' adaptability complemented the Talari's strength perfectly. Valeera admired his calm efficiency under pressure. Every move he made was deliberate, thoughtful, and effective. "Marcus, behind you," Valeera shouted. A mech lord drone had slipped past their defenses. Marcus reacted instantly, twisting, rolling, and firing with precise aim. The drone exploded in a shower of sparks, and Valeera was impressed once again. Humans were smaller, yes, but they had a sharpness of mind and reflexes that could turn impossible situations into success. The team reached the command hub's main control room. Valeera moved to the central console, working quickly to disable the systems that coordinated the mech-lord forces. Marcus covered her, scanning for any approaching threats. "Almost there," she said, her voice tense but focused. "Just a few more seconds." A massive mech-lord burst through the doorway, its metal limbs towering over them. Valeera readied her energy blade, but Marcus saw an opportunity. "Use the support beams," he shouted. "If we collapse them, it will trap the mech-lord." Valeera nodded, trusting his judgment. With coordinated strikes, she and Marcus targeted the beams. Sparks flew as metal groaned and bent. The mech-lord crashed to the ground, trapped beneath the fallen structure. The team exhaled in relief, but they knew the mission was not over. Valeera quickly finished disabling the command hub. The control systems went offline, leaving the mech-lords disorganized and vulnerable. Marcus and the team slipped out of the hub just as reinforcements arrived to cover their escape. The narrow canyon became a choke point, allowing coalition forces to repel the disoriented mech-lords with minimal casualties. As they regrouped outside, Valeera looked at Marcus, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and admiration. "You're human. Instincts, they made the difference. We succeeded because of your insight, your patience, and your courage." Marcus shook his head modestly. "We succeeded because of all of you. I just helped in my own way." Humans often downplayed their contributions, but Valeera saw the truth. He had been decisive, clever, and calm when it mattered most. His actions had inspired confidence, coordinated the team, and turned a risky mission into a success. The team rested briefly on a rocky plateau, overlooking the valley below. The mech-lords were retreating in disarray, and the coalition had gained a significant advantage. Valeera handed Marcus a water pack. "Here," she said, her voice softer than usual. "You earned this. You fought not just with skill, but with thought and care." Marcus accepted it with a small smile. "Thank you, Lieutenant. You lead brilliantly. Your strength, your focus, it's impressive." For a moment, they simply sat there, sharing a quiet moment amidst the chaos. The bond between them had grown stronger, not just through battle, but through trust, understanding, and subtle recognition of each other's strengths. Valeera realized something she had not admitted before. She had relied on Marcus not only physically but emotionally. His calm presence steadied her, and his intelligence inspired her. She felt a warmth in her chest, a growing admiration that was difficult to ignore. Marcus, in turn, recognized Valeera's brilliance, courage, and leadership. Humans valued loyalty and trust, and he trusted her completely. He also sensed the subtle connection forming between them, an unspoken understanding that went beyond the battlefield. Night fell over Zithara, stars glimmering faintly above the plateau. The team made camp, repairing equipment and preparing for the next day. The mission had been dangerous, the stakes high, yet they had succeeded because of cooperation, strategy, and the unique strengths each species brought to the fight. Valeera stood near the edge of the plateau, gazing at the distant horizon. "Tomorrow will be harder," she said softly. "The mech lords will not forget this. They will strike again, stronger and more determined." Marcus joined her, standing quietly. "Then we will be ready. Together." There was a subtle, unspoken understanding between them. Humans had a way of inspiring trust and confidence, and Valera recognized that Marcus Kane was more than just a soldier. He was a partner, a teammate, and perhaps in time, something more. The night passed quietly over Zithera. Soldiers rested, and the battlefield lay silent for a moment. Marcus and Valera shared a rare peace amidst the ongoing war, a moment to reflect, to trust, and to appreciate the strength and courage in each other. As dawn approached, Valera prepared her team for the next engagement. Marcus checked his equipment and stood ready by her side. The challenges ahead were uncertain, the mech lords unpredictable, but together, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and cooperation could overcome even the most dangerous odds. For Valera, the human soldier was no longer just an ally. He had earned her respect, trust, and admiration. And for Marcus, the Talari warrior had become a symbol of strength, discipline, and resilience, someone he could rely on completely. The rising sun cast a golden light over the plateau, signaling the beginning of another day of battle. The mech lords would return and the stakes would rise higher than ever before. But Marcus and Valera were ready. They had each other, their team, and the quiet understanding that together they could face anything. In the shadow of war, a human and a Talari warrior had forged a bond of trust, respect, and subtle admiration, one that would carry them through the battles to come and perhaps beyond. The morning air on Zithera was crisp and sharp, carrying the faint scent of scorched metal from the previous battles. The coalition forces had regrouped overnight, repairing armor, checking weapons, and sharing quiet words of encouragement. Yet everyone knew the final battle was coming. The mech lords, enraged by the loss of their command hub, were gathering for a massive counterattack. Captain Marcus Kane and Lieutenant Valera stood together at the edge of a plateau, overlooking the valley where the enemy was assembling. Valera's dark eyes narrowed as she observed the enemy formations. She had studied countless battles, yet something about this human soldier's calm focus gave her reassurance. "Marcus," she said, "we face an army far larger than our own. Many will fall today, but your insight, your human instinct, has already changed the course of this war. Will you stand with me?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Always. Humans fight for each other, and for what is right. Together, we can give our allies the advantage they need." The team assembled swiftly. Soldiers of different species, Talari, humans, and other allied warriors, stood side by side. Each trusted Marcus and Valera implicitly. Marcus's adaptability, quick thinking, and calm presence had earned their respect, while Valera's strength, strategy, and leadership inspired them. As the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the valley, the mech lords began their advance. Massive robotic warriors moved in unison, their metal limbs reflecting the sunlight. The Grow,